All right, here's a review of my new movie, Lincoln Lawyer in Space. Interstellar. So Interstellar is the new movie directed by Christopher Nolan. So the story of this movie is Earth is dying. It's shitty. You look at it and you're like, I don't want to live there. Dust clouds everywhere. They do a good job at establishing the world. People need farmers. People need food. The last source of food we have is corn. And soon that's going to go away and people are going to die and they need to find a solution. The solution is to go to another galaxy through a wormhole. Matthew McConaughey is going to lead that charge along with Anne Hathaway and a robot who looks like, what does he look? He looks like Legos. Like when you would take Legos and piece them together and just walk them when they're not attached. He's no Michael Fassbender, I'll say that, but he's a block and he's efficient. He does the job well. Now, first of all, what was great in this movie, Matthew McConaughey was great in this movie for sure. He leads the charge in this movie. He leads it well. Dude's a great actor. I mean, you watch him work, you're like, I'm so glad you had a comeback. Yeah, like I said, Lincoln Lawyer in Space. And sometimes in a movie, you need a little kid to be in the movie, and usually if that's the case, don't. But if you're gonna have a little kid in the movie, have the kid be a good actor. The girl who plays Murphy, she's good. She's really good, actually. Her and McConaughey back and forth. At a point, I was like, I like you as a father-daughter duo. You really want him to succeed for the same reason he wants to succeed. He wants to succeed for her. And then you go off into space exploration. When you're doing something like this, you're gonna have relativity, the theory of relativity. And this movie shows that relativity really well also. It's really well executed. You really feel like it's like, oh shit, oh no, you're losing time. And the music was really creepy. It had this awesome intense organ music that was playing when the scenes were getting intense, when you had to feel that emotion, and I felt it. I'm not gonna lie, reviewing a movie like this is difficult because whatever you like or didn't like in this movie, you have to explain, but if you explain it, you give away plot points. It might not be huge plot points, but the point of this movie is that you don't really know a lot of it going into it. So you want to hold that secrecy for you guys, the audience. It's gonna be difficult. But in things being imperfect, this movie's not perfect. Let's talk about the pacing in this movie, because the thing that binds this movie together, that keeps you engaged, is the whole bond between Murphy and Matthew McConaughey. If that wasn't in there, this would simply be a space exploration movie about making pit stops in another galaxy. That's the movie. You have the visuals to keep you company. And you're like, oh, that's rad. And there are moments where you're like, oh, that feels like I'm actually in space, which I love that stuff. That is awesome. But ultimately, it's just you make a pit stop here, then you make a pit stop here, and it takes 3 hours to tell this story about pit stops. The movie didn't have that flow. It didn't feel like everything was plotted out and everything was really hashed out, and Christopher Nolan spent time making sure everything feeds into, all right. Yeah, that's great. Like at parts, McConaughey and his crew had to improvise the situation to get out of certain tight spots. But you feel like that improvisation that the characters were doing, Christopher Nolan was doing as he was writing the script, as he was filming the movie. You feel like the last act of this movie, as much as it was actually my favorite part of the movie, was detached from the rest of the movie. You feel like when he was pitching it to the studio, he was like, and then he just drew this big convoluted thing on a board and they were like, yeah! Sure, why not? This movie's kind of like the game Kerplunk. You have all these things jammed into this cylinder holding up all the marbles. But you feel like if you pull that one thing, it's all gonna come crashing down. However, still fun to play. That is Interstellar. In the end, Interstellar is an ambitious movie. It's a good space drama. I love the family dynamic between McConaughey and his family. I love the relativity that they show in this movie. But I feel like Christopher Nolan was overreaching in what he had in mind for this movie. It didn't quite all translate to screen. And it did not need to be damn near 3 hours long to tell the story. It just didn't. Regardless of its flaws, it was still an interesting movie, so I will say Interstellar is still a good time, no alcohol required. And I know the reality of the situation. Nolan fans want it to be the next 2001: A Space Odyssey. 2001: A Space Odyssey fans want it to be the next 2001: A Space Odyssey. And it's just not. Alright, so Interstellar, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever you thought, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.